Hey guys, my name is Matsumo, and welcome to another episode of Did You Know? Operation Phantom Sight is just around the corner, and with it, we of course get the 2 new operators and some things that Ubisoft has changed that may not be all that obvious. And so first of all, did you know that there are subtle ways for you to be able to identify when a Nook is nearby? So I'm sure you guys are all very aware that when Nook activates her ability, not only does she now make less noise, but she also becomes invisible to cameras. As long as she isn't sprinting around or going through an animation, she is literally not going to show up on the camera whatsoever. But you'll notice that when the camera is activated, if you have a teammate, let's say watching said camera, and you're in the vicinity, if the Nook actually enters the line of sight of said camera, it will go from a blue light to a white light. Now, obviously, this is quite situational and it requires a bit of teamwork, but if you have someone watching your back in a camera and all of a sudden you notice that it turns white, you should probably let everyone know that a Nook is nearby. Now, what makes things a little bit more interesting is that it does seem to be based on the line of sight of the camera. And so as soon as Nook ducks behind cover, it's going to turn back to blue. And so if you're in a long hallway, for example, let's say you're defending the 90 hallway on Villa, as soon as that turns white, you're gonna have a general idea of where she is. She isn't in your vicinity. She's either down those long hallways and you can peek around the corner and hopefully take her out. And so while it is only going to be helpful in select situations, I definitely think this is a really cool, unique aspect about Nook's gadgets. What I also found very interesting is that the silent ability of it isn't as widespread as a lot of people probably thought it was. So when you activate Silent Step on Cav, for example, pretty much every action you do is now a lot more quiet. She is easily the stealthiest operator in the game. And a lot of people were assuming that was going to be the same for Nook, but that's just simply not the case. If you sprint down a long hallway, you're gonna make the same amount of sound. If you're switching weapons, for example, even if you have your gadget active, it's still going to make the same amount of audio. Really, the only difference is if you are slowly walking from point A to point B, crouching, or kind of shuffling around. It is worth noting that you're not completely silent when you do those actions. And so if you're expecting to walk down a long hallway or go from crouch to standing, if someone has their audio all the way turned up or they're being very attentive and they're nearby right behind the doorway, they're still gonna know that you're there. In general though, this is easily one of the best aspects about playing as this character, but you do need to know its limitations. Cav is still going to be the stealthiest operator in Rainbow Six Siege, or at least that's what it seems to be, and so as long as you know her weaknesses, you can hopefully work around them and use that to your advantage. Another really cool aspect about Nook is that she is a direct counter to Alibi. Now, I'm sure you guys are all very aware at this point because Alibi really isn't a new character, but if you hit her prisms, it is going to ping your location. Either you take a shot at the actual prism itself, or you just run through it with your drone or your character's body. That isn't the case with Nook. As long as her gadget is activated, you can take as many shots or run straight through her prisms, and it isn't going to relay that information, kind of solidifying her once again as being that very stealthy operator. Now, if you're curious if this is a glitch, it's actually not the case. A Ubisoft developer confirmed that this is a design decision, and so if you're going against an Alibi main that constantly places these things in doorways or in windows, this could be one way of working around it. Now, probably one of the more exciting changes that Ubisoft has made this season is that they've gone into existing maps other than Cafe and made some improvements. Probably the most obvious one is down below in the basement on Bank. If you guys have ever defended down there, you guys all know that there is a sprinkler system that is just constantly drenching everything in water. And if you're playing on defense, it can be really difficult just to simply not only see what's happening in the garage, but also hear if anyone is nearby. That is no longer going to be a problem. There still is a little bit of a trickle of water coming down from the ceiling, but it's nowhere near as debilitating. And so when you're defending in that spot, it will hopefully be a lot less frustrating. They also made some changes to the secret tunnel. If you make your way on over, it might be difficult to pinpoint exactly what they've done, but as soon as you see a side by side, it should become very obvious. That fog that kind of just sat there all the time is now gone. And so if you're someone who is moving from secret into server, or you're watching that entrance for any offensive players, it should now be a lot easier to see what's happening so that you can hopefully take them out. This actually seems to be a theme with this update. Ubisoft going on in and trying to improve the visual clarity. A great example of this is Villa. As soon as you play it, you're gonna notice the difference immediately. Not only are there some aesthetic changes, they've added some windows, not that you can jump through, there isn't going to be any new flanking routes or anything like that. They're really just there to bring in more lights, but boy, do they bring in a lot more light. One of the big issues with this map is that while balance-wise it was pretty great, it had a lot of dark corners. It was very dim. And so by increasing that brightness, it's now going to be a lot easier to see the Vigil, who normally would be practically invisible in the corner. Now you see him not necessarily bright as day, but he's going to stand out a lot more than he did before. Another great change that Ubisoft made is if we make our way on over to the garage on Clubhouse, there were those little slits in between the metal railings, and as a defender, it made it a great way for you to take anyone that was trying to come in through the garage entrance. But on offense, it was awful to actually get those players away from those spots. And so if you make your way on over here now, you'll notice that those little pixel peaks are now gone. You can still sort of do it in certain areas, but it's nowhere near as advantageous as it was before. Now, one thing that definitely slipped under the radar with this update is that Cav and Vigil saw some adjustments. You guys all know that when you activate their abilities, that you cannot use them until they're fully back on cooldown. So even if you use it only for 5 seconds, if you deactivate it, you then have to wait for it to fully recharge. With this new season though, that's no longer the case. All you need now is 20% of the refill before you can activate it again. And so if you really need to silence step, it's going to give more control for the players to roam around the map and use their gadget to the fullest. The thing about it though, and this is kind of the nerf that I didn't really agree with, is that it looks like it actually recharges slower. And so while you might be able to activate it whenever you want in a tough situation, you're actually not going to be able to have it on as long or as frequent as you could before. People are saying that it's going from like a 7 seconds recharge now to like a 13-second recharge. So it's a significant difference. I don't know how this is going to affect them in the grand scheme of things because it seems like sort of a buff and a nerf, but I did want to let you know that this change was in place. The final thing I wanted to talk about in today's video is that there are a lot of really cool angles on the new cafe rework. Probably one of my favorite things to do is catching people by surprise who are jumping through that new hatch on the top floor. There is wood directly below where they drop, and so either you can go below and open it up and take people that are jumping in either with their primary weapon, or you can put a nitro right where they're going to land, and then as soon as you see them drop, immediately take them out. What's great about this spot is that even though you would think that they would be able to hear it with their drones, for example, the beeping of the nitro, because it's just on a balcony, for some reason you don't. It's probably because it's extended further inside. And so if you want to catch some people by surprise, if they're trying to enter from that location, this is an amazing way of going about it. Another really cool angle is if you make your way on over to the kitchen's front door, you'll notice by the bar directly above it that there is this opening. I don't know why it's open. There's clearly kind of some debris up there. I think Ubisoft did this intentionally, and this is so that if you know that someone is in that left-hand corner, and this is a great camping spot with all the changes they made to kitchen, all you got to do is either throw a flash or your nade in there, and it's probably going to cause some problems for the defensive team. Obviously, there are some ways for defense to work around this, but if they're not expecting it, it can be a great way at getting an easy free takedown. And then finally, if you want to be really sneaky and defend kitchen, what you can do is make your way on over to the train area, open up the section that I am right now, then open up the hatch that's all the way up in the piano room, and then you can see from the actual hatch through that opening that you made all the way into the kitchen section entrance. What's great about this is that this is one of two ways they're even able to get into the objective area, unless they're able to get through one of the reinforced walls. But as long as you have like a bandit stopping that, this can be a great way at catching also a offensive player by surprise. Probably my best advice with the new cafe is just start opening things up. Watch for different angles because they just simply weren't possible before. There's a lot of great changes here, and I'm excited to see what people come up with in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, guys, that is it for today's video. A lot of cool changes are coming with this upcoming season, some of them being very subtle, and so I wanted it to make today's video to explain what they are, and so I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys have learned anything new with this season. Is there any cool new interaction that we didn't talk about in today's video with the 2 new operators? Is there something brand new on the old maps? Let everyone know down below in the comments. But yeah, guys, until next time, have a good one and take it easy.